I'm a teenage girl who's always wondered why my dad treated me differently from my siblings, a teen sister and two younger brothers. My sister and I are barely a year apart, but he always doted on her, cheering for her passions and never missing her theater performances. He's just as attentive with my brothers, but he's never shown up to my dance recitals or cared about my hobbies. When I needed encouragement, he'd dismiss me. He'd shower my siblings with gifts like toys or treats, but I was left out. When Mom wasn't around, he'd send me to a friend's or relative's house, or he'd organize fun movie or game nights with my siblings and tell me to stay in my room. I cried to my mom about it countless times, and she said it was because we were too similar and clashed. But I never argued with him or got the chance to connect enough to clash. A few months ago, a relative revealed that he's not my biological dad. Apparently, my mom was involved with both him and my real father. He gave her an ultimatum to choose, and she picked him. When she found out she was pregnant with me, he agreed to raise me but wanted a child of his own. A DNA test confirmed I wasn't his, and soon after, my sister was born to fulfill his wish. When I confronted my parents with the proof, he told me I could start calling him by his first name, Jake, instead of Dad. My mom was furious, someone told me, and has been demanding to know who spilled the secret, sometimes multiple times a day. She's interrogated family members, but I've refused to name the person. Even if it was wrong to tell me behind her back, I'm relieved to know the truth. The revelation also uncovered that, unlike my siblings, I have no college fund. Jake wants me out of the house the day I turn 18, saying I was never his, he never loved me, and he wants a year with just his real family. All my mom seems to care about is finding out who told me. She tried to punish me, saying it was wrong for someone to share such news with a minor without a parent present, and that hiding their identity encourages secrecy. She thinks I'm wrong for not telling her who revealed that Jake isn't my dad. Am I wrong for keeping quiet? You're not wrong. Your mom is a terrible parent. She's more upset about her secret being exposed than about the pain you've endured. She's fine with you having less than your siblings and being pushed out. Her focus on damage control over your well-being speaks volumes. She also kept your biological father from you, someone who might not even know you exist and could have wanted to be in your life. Instead, you were stuck with Jake, who's cold and dismissive. Compare that to my cousin, who loves his non-biological daughter as much as his other kids. Jake's neglect is cruel, and I hope he faces consequences. You might get answers about your real dad by talking to Jake alone, hinting it could get you out of his life sooner. He's selfish and doesn't deserve your respect. I'm a 22-year-old guy who graduated college last spring and started my dream job in June. My girlfriend, 20, is still in college, living on campus and working part-time at the school cafeteria. I admire her for balancing work and studies. My workplace invited me to a team dinner and said I could bring a guest. Naturally, I invited my girlfriend, and she was thrilled to join. She asked about the dinner's vibe, and I mentioned my coworkers are older, in their 30s or beyond, and quite professional. I suggested she avoid mentioning her job to sidestep any judgment from them. It wasn't a demand, just a thought to protect her and me at a job I care about. She got upset, feeling I was ashamed of her, which isn't true. Now she's refusing to attend, saying I don't respect her. I tried calling to clarify, but she said if she's not good enough as is, she doesn't want to come. I was excited to share this part of my life with her, but now I'm heartbroken. My roommate said my suggestion was rude and implied I'm embarrassed of her. After their reactions, I'm questioning myself. Am I wrong? You're wrong. Your girlfriend is working hard while studying, which is admirable. Your coworkers likely did similar jobs at her age. Acting like her job is something to hide makes you seem shallow. Caring more about your coworkers' opinions than her feelings shows misplaced priorities. If you keep this attitude, you risk losing her and alienating others at work. She's not a stripper. She's a student with a respectable job. Do some soul-searching before you ruin a good thing. I'm a father whose wife became a stay-at-home mom after our first son was born. 6 months later, we noticed he was missing developmental milestones. We raised concerns with his pediatrician, who dismissed them as just guidelines. My wife grew anxious, insisting something was wrong. A second pediatrician gave us evaluation forms to complete. My wife, overwhelmed, struggled to fill them out, fearing she'd answer incorrectly. I tried to help, but as I wasn't home as much, I needed her input for some questions. She got frustrated, saying I wasn't supporting her. Our son was diagnosed with autism just before toddlerhood. My wife was devastated, and the pediatrician suggested therapy for her, as primary caregivers often struggle. Since then, she's changed completely. She speaks only in therapy jargon, treating her therapist's words as gospel. For example, she's called our toddler son toxic for not showing affection, labeled me toxic for canceling a date after she insulted me, called me financially abusive for saying we couldn't afford another child. We had one anyway because she insisted, and deemed me dangerous for stopping her from walking on broken glass I was cleaning. She even called our son dangerous for accidentally kicking her during a tantrum in kindergarten. We had a second son, now almost a toddler, despite my concerns about costs and our ability to care for our older son. My wife now treats our older son and me like adversaries, focusing only on the younger one. She's stopped caring for our older son entirely. I had to cut back work hours to handle his school drop-offs and pickups, but it wasn't sustainable financially. I enrolled him in an expensive after-school program, so I could work full-time again. I told her it's unfair to ignore our older son and leave all his care to me while she monopolizes the younger one. She said her therapist told her our older son destroyed her first child by being a disease that replaced him. I told her I don't care what her therapist says, this is about our family, and she's neglecting us. I said I'm done and want a divorce. She freaked out, accusing me of abusing her by criticizing her therapist and trying to cut off her support. A lawyer friend said insulting her therapist was a bad move, as therapy matters, and the therapist isn't necessarily telling her to neglect our son. I think this therapist ruined my marriage and turned my wife into someone unrecognizable. Am I wrong for criticizing the therapist? You're not wrong. You've shown incredible patience. Your wife's neglect of your older son is unacceptable, and it sounds like she wanted a second child as a do-over for the first, which is heartbreaking. Either she's misinterpreting her therapist, or the therapist is enabling her worst impulses for profit. Some therapists prioritize keeping clients over challenging them. Record conversations if safe, as her behavior seems unstable and your older son's well-being is at risk. Divorce sounds like the right move to protect him and yourself. I'm a 21-year-old woman whose mom passed away when I was 12. My dad remarried when I was 16, and the wedding was tough for me. I loved my dad, so I put on a brave face and kept my grief private. The day was small and low-key, and my dad didn't push me to do more than I was comfortable with. Everyone thought the wedding went well until recently. During a memorial for my mom, my stepmom brought up a grudge she's held since the wedding. She'd expected me to make a big gesture to welcome her as family and a mother figure, and she was disappointed when I didn't. She first mentioned it casually, saying grand gestures weren't my thing when I made something for my mom's grave. My dad pressed her and she brushed it off. Later, at dinner, when I spoke about missing my mom, she directly said I clearly didn't love her at the wedding because I didn't show acceptance. She'd convinced herself I'd do something big to embrace her as a new mom, despite us only knowing each other for months. Alone, she told me I could apologize to make amends, but I said I never promised or hinted at such a gesture, and I wasn't sorry. She asked if I still didn't love her, and I told her she had unrealistic expectations. Now her grudge has grown because I didn't make the gesture and refused to apologize years later. She says I'm disrespecting her and my dad's marriage. Am I wrong? You're not wrong. Your stepmom is out of line for holding a grudge against a grieving teen for not meeting her absurd expectations. Holding on to this for years and bringing it up at your mom's memorial is cruel and self-centered. She's not entitled to your affection, especially when you barely knew her then. Her behavior reeks of narcissism. You owe her no apology. Keep your boundaries firm.